Edge. It's guts to go beyond the distance. In the old days, these guys would walk to the North Pole behind a dog sled. Today, it's that same fraction of sheer human chutzpah locked inside the heads of the world's hottest scientists. The Greeks said virtue is hitting the mark. Edge is virtue.
Hello and welcome to Still Watch the Skies for August 2016. I'm Robert Reinecke.
I'm Nat Almorel.
I'm Cody Lang.
We're going to probably break from traditional format for a few minutes here just to go over personal news. How are you doing, Cody?
I'm fine. No personal news.
No summer classes that you can share with us or experiences from?
No, typically we're not supposed to do that work in the summer. We just have a fellowship, and then we're just supposed to work on our dissertation or publications. So just me reading a lot. I'm just studying for my qualifying exams right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
What are those exams going to be like?
3 essays, 10 pages each, and they're based off of 3 lists, so of books on a particular field of study that you could teach in the future. So mine is transnational film and film in its relation to classical film theory. It's the first one. The second one is a historical list on global new wave cinema. And the third one is just a broad list, a broad general study of aesthetics and politics. So not really related to film necessarily, just philosophy of aesthetics and politics.
So Triumph of the Will.
Nope. Not on that one. But they're books. They're not movies. So I have to read 25 books for each list. So that's like 75.
So the novelization of Triumph of the Will.
No. It'd be, I don't know, these books you guys wouldn't have heard of. They're not really well known. They're like, I don't know, Aesthetic Theory by Adorno or Political Unconscious by Frederick Jameson or 1,000 Plateaus by Deleuze and Guattari.
I do know Adorno.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like light reading.
No, it's not. I don't really like it too much. I like the books on it, but it's just hard to read that much or that many books in a short amount of time. I'm just doing a lot of skimming where I just basically read for what I think the questions will be asking, and I just take about a minimum of 2-page notes for each book, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's actually worse from what I heard to take more notes, because then you just go through too slow and get stuck in details.
Yeah, just get the big ideas.
Yeah, just main arguments. The other ones, the philosophy lists, I'll probably read them a bit more closer. But then again, I've read most of the books on there already, so it'll be easier for me to read them again. Yeah, it's okay. It's just kind of boring because you're by yourself a lot. Anyway, yeah. That's why I said no personal news. I'm not doing anything interesting.
For myself, just a lot of work, although one of my projects was in the newspaper here, one of the flood control basins that I'm working on, and that'll be under construction, but otherwise, a lot of work. You don't have anything to tell us, do you, Nat?
Well, I was just going to ask you, Robert, if you found any blobs in the sewers during that work.
Oh, that should be our Halloween podcast, sewer films.
Oh, yeah.
We could do Ghostbusters 2, Ninja Turtles,
Alligator.
I haven't heard of Alligator, but it sounds like it would work.
John Sayles script.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not
I'll take
Alligator.
a note of that.
It's not Alligator with an exclamation point, but yeah.
We should just change our podcast to sewer films. Still watching the sewers.
Cinema Toilet, yeah. And for my personal news, Robert, for those of you who follow me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media site I'm not updating, my wife and I had our first child. So
congratulations, Nat.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. He's doing well. He's sleeping right now, but I'm sure he'll start wailing in the future. Fortunately, he doesn't have that much of a screech, and he's adjusting pretty well to a regular human sleep schedule.
Yeah.
But he's a hungry little guy, and very adorable. So we think we'll keep him.
Oh, I want to ask you something. Not sure if you heard about this substance before, but what was the meconium like?
It is exactly as they describe it.
Okay,
Tar is the best the best and most accurate description of it after experiencing it firsthand. It actually is kind of like you remember on Futurama when Nibbler would use a litter box?
Yes.
It's pretty much just like that.
Yeah, I like Futurama a lot. I've showed it to my stepkids.
It's a great show.
Yeah, way better than Family Guy.
Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
No arguments there. Take that, Andrew James.
Yeah.
Was it an easy delivery for Jocelyn, or any complications? And how's she doing?
Well, without getting too much into my wife's anatomy, she's doing fine, and the entire labor process from when they began the induction took about 12 hours, and they actually they went by very quickly, and that was for me. She had an epidural, so they may have gone by even faster for her.
Mm-hmm.
But she handled it like a pro. The entire push phase of it lasted about 40 minutes, 40, and that also went by very quickly. And she didn't curse my name or, invoke any sort of ancient vendettas against me during that procedure.
Speaking in tongues?
No, not at all. So it wasn't like the witch at all. But yeah, she handled it like a pro, and yeah, we're greatly enjoying his company.
That's great.
Yeah, and
what's the guy's name?
His name is Lorenzo, so we're calling him Enzo for short.
Enzo, cool.
Yeah, like Ferrari or the baker from The Godfather,
or from Reboot.
The CGI show from the 90s.
Yeah, Canadian TV show from the 90s.
Huh. I never watched that show, but I'm aware of it.
Oh, it's great, especially third season.
It's usually the third season of most shows that tends to be the strongest.
Yeah.
How many seasons did that run for?
3.
Oh, okay.
and one movie.
Huh. Well, he wasn't named after the character of that show.
Well, Enzo's a pretty cool character, especially when he grows up, gets an eye patch, and becomes the new guardian of the mainframe.
Well, I'd hope the same for my son.
Yeah, I hope so too.
You hope he gets an eye patch?
Maybe not lose an eye, or have like some debilitating disease that takes an eye, but maybe sporting an eye patch every now and then. He already has the pirate look down pretty well, so it would seem like a natural pairing. But I think he'd be pretty cool with an eye patch. Maybe a Halloween costume.
Okay.
But yeah,
you can even do it through this Halloween.
Maybe I can use him as the cover image for our Halloween special.
I think you should dress him up as adult Enzo from Reboot. I'll send you a picture on Facebook.
Okay, and then people will ask me what is he supposed to be, and then I'll direct them to you, Cody.
Yeah, just tell him to call me.
Can you give your number out on the air for everyone just to prep for?
No, I don't have a phone number. I just have a fax.
Oh, okay. Can you give your fax number out on the air?
I can give it later.
Okay.
I don't know it off by hand.
We'll insert that later.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just befriend Cody on Facebook.
What's the fun in that?
You can add to my friends list.
Yeah. How often do you update on Facebook, Cody?
Never. I go on it, but I just don't write things on it or do things on it, really.
I think that's generally how I use it as well. But yeah, so thank you for asking. He's doing great, and be sure to send a lot of pictures Facebook's way at some point in the future. But Jocelyn already has that covered, so don't have to worry about it too much.
You just have to be involved in the picture. You don't have to be committed to it.
Even that's tenuous, so. Yeah. But he is pretty cute. I think that's all for my personal news.
Okay. I think that wraps it up. Cody, you had brought us the movie of the month, New Rose Hotel.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us and our listeners about it?
Okay, just getting a synopsis from IMDb here. Manhattan in the not-too-distant future seems a lot like Tokyo. Two friends who live on the margin try for one big score. One is Fox, older, limping, philosophical, played by Christopher Walken. The other is X, Willem Dafoe. They stand to make $100 million from Moss, a conglomerate, if they can steal the secrets of a genetics company, Osaka, and its genius leader, Hitoshi. This synopsis has got the details wrong. They stand to make $100 million from Osaka, who are willing to pay for their genetics specialist, Hiroshi, that works for Moss. They enlist Sandy, a Shinjuku girl, which means a call girl, to fly to Marrakesh, where...
Is that Marrakesh?
Marrakesh. Okay, this synopsis is totally messed. Sorry. Okay, here's another one. The first one on the page by Baldinato di Pistola. Moss and Osaka are two large corporations in the future world. They are fighting to get control over the best minds of the world. The best is Hiroshi, and at the moment he is working for the Moss Corporation. Fox has accepted an offer to persuade Hiroshi to go over to the Osaka Corporation. Sandy is a little Italian girl from Japan, and she should be the way to get Hiroshi. This is really bad, too. X is the man who should train Sandy to break Hiroshi's heart. What? No, it's to make him fall in love with her. But if X falls in love with... But what if X falls in love with Sandy? X is played by Willem Dafoe. And if the Osaka Corporation breaks the agreement, and if Sandy is not a little Italian girl, this doesn't make sense either. Basically, this is basically a cyberpunk, I wouldn't say a thriller because it's not really thrilling, but it's a cyberpunk movie based off of William Gibson's short story called New Rose Hotel, which was collected in his short story collection called Burning Chrome. I think the short story was written around the mid-'80s, early '80s. And it was when he started to write cyberpunk stuff like Johnny Mnemonic and Neuromancer and later Count Zero and Mona Lisa Overdrive. The film follows the short story plot-wise closely. So it's basically about two guys who are called like corporate espionage criminals. They steal people from corporations to work for other corporations. So in this future world, there's no freedom to quit a job, I guess, and work for someone else. You have to persuade them and make another offer and steal them away, essentially, and then make them work in a undisclosed location. And that's basically the plot. The plot's not really that elaborate. They hire Asia Argento's character, Sandy, to seduce Hiroshi, who we never actually see in the same scene with any of these characters. It's always seen through surveillance footage, I believe. And then what essentially happens... Can I give the twist away or no? Or should I wait till we discuss it? Essentially, they get double-crossed, and Fox gets killed, and then X hides out in this little coffin-based hotel, which is like these little rooms where you crawl in. It's like a coffin, and you just hang out in there for whatever. I'm assuming it's like a cheap motel place, and he's hiding from the Osaka or the Moss Corporation. I'm not sure exactly who's doing the hits. I think it's Osaka. And he's basically hiding out and then revisiting the memories that he had of this situation and how he fell in love with her, Asia Argento's character, and how she double-crossed him and so forth. So the second half like the last half of the film, or the last third of the film, I guess, is like you just kind of revisit scenes from the first 2/3, and you're kind of figuring out with Willem Dafoe's character what happened to them, basically. Okay, so yeah, well, what do you guys think of the movie? I think Nat liked it because he said it before, but I'm not sure what Robert thinks about it.
I struggled with the movie. I struggled with the technical aspects of it. I think I kind of made a snarky remark on Facebook that I saw more grain on film in this film than I had in any film since the bread making montage in the Russian silent film Earth.
Boom.
Well, I thought that was a compliment.
Well, I mean, I don't mind grain. It just kind of came and went, and I didn't know what the purpose of the grain is. I know what the purpose of the grain is in the surveillance footage scenes. Some of those other scenes were grainy, some of them weren't. So I didn't know if they were going for an aesthetic or if it was technical limitations. So I kind of found that distracting, and I found the sound kind of muddy. Although I did like the score.
Yeah.
And I had a tough time understanding Asia Argento, so I'm glad I had read the story before, but I kind of missed a good chunk of her dialogue just because I between her accent and the sound, I couldn't pick up some of what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
I did like Walken. I thought Walken was fun. Dafoe was okay. I mean, he's a talented actor, and he gave a solid performance. Not one of his greatest, but it was solid. I didn't really like Asia Argento as an actress, so that kind of hurt. I mean, I don't get much of the attraction. I thought they had a lot of nice ideas, and I think they did a decent job of at least bringing them up. The corporate world and the corporations basically ruling or controlling everything, and the espionage angle I thought was fun, and it took a little bit of adjustment to figure out that it's more of a mood piece than an actual heist film, because all of the action takes place off screen, basically.
Exactly.
And that was a little bit of a surprise, but, I mean, I guess you just have to accept it for what it is, and I can go with that, although I thought with basically the recapping everything that we had seen before, I got a bit bored with that. So, I mean, I think it had some good ideas. I think it had some of the filmmaking was good. I will say this film was made in the 90s. I think they did an excellent job of foreseeing what smartphones might be like. I mean, there's some differences, but I thought the digital technology that people were carrying along was pretty prescient.
Well, like the ability to transfer video and text and like access bank account information, stuff like that. You mean?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. They they look like big block phones, but
what the screen themselves, they seem to be pretty straightforward and pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess I have mixed feelings on this one. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's terrible. It's just it had highlights and it had some lowlights. I like the short story it was based on better, mainly because I was kind of off put by Asia Argento. Nat, what do you think?
I liked it quite a bit. I think for no offense to Cody, but for Cody films, I sometimes wonder like how long they're going to be. Even if this one is an hour and a half, like how long is it going to feel? And actually, this one just breezed by for me. Like the halfway mark came fairly quickly, I thought, and then even like the last third, where they are kind of replaying scenes that you've already seen. I really like that. I thought it was kind of neat just to take. I mean, like the film is this painting, and it's taking like just these images that it's shown before and kind of like arranging them in a different sort of collage. And that's one thing I liked about this film, is that even though it takes place in the future, and I think there's definite inspiration from like Blade Runner, both in the music and just some of like the city shots and interiors, and like the Asian influence on Western cities. Just this idea of like going, like really focusing on very human element and making it almost like a stage play. Like there are very few characters outside of the three main characters. You'll get like some girls or like prostitutes every now and then, but they don't really have that much as far as a speaking role. And you see at the beginning kind of like reality or just watching these specific characters like, you know, without any sort of filter, and then it moves to like the video portion of it. Like you said, you never actually see Hiroshi interact with any of the characters. It's always like video footage, and there's like a number of scenes that are also played out in video footage, like when Fox dies, and then when it goes to the New Rose Hotel, it's like Willem Dafoe's memories, and then it goes on to fantasies. And I just kind of like that mix of storytelling through those different mediums in this film, and that was kind of like my big takeaway from it. Plus, I like the fact that the music is by Schoolie D. So well done, Abel Ferrera.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, Nat. I wasn't sure how you would like it, but one thing I really like about it is that it improves on repeat watches. So like I tend to rewatch a lot of movies, and then when I find one that I can rewatch a lot, and get something more out of it, then it's a great find for me. So like, and I should admit that I didn't really like it that much when I first saw it a few years ago. I sought it out because I like this director a lot, and I don't think it's his best film, but I think it's definitely up there in the top 5. But what I really liked about it this time around was basically how it does adapt the short story style, but to a film medium. And what I mean by that is that the short story is written like pretty much as if the guy is sitting in a hotel and recollecting these events and then trying to piece them together. And that's how the film feels like, even before you're watching that sequence of when he's in the hotel piecing them together. Mm-hmm. And what I find sometimes is that when you have a really good writer and then you try to adapt the film, I think the most successful adaptations are the ones that create their own type of either kind of point to the story, or they change the meaning of it entirely so it's completely its own thing and doesn't rely on the story to understand it or to sort of, get into it. Or is when like let's say when you have like a really interesting author like Thomas Pynchon, who has a very unique style, and then you adapt his, let's say you take the most recent or the only adaptation thus far, which is Inherent Vice, and the adaptation basically just follows the plot, but it doesn't create any sort of visual style that would, translate his style to the film. And so it becomes kind of boring when it's compared to the book. Whereas in this, I think Ferrara, with his use of dissolves and repeating imagery and mixing of video surveillance footage and basically structuring the film to be like a chamber drama instead of a thriller, it does translate those aspects of the short story quite well. And so I think both stand on their own. I only asked you guys to read the short story beforehand, because it was short, first of all, and so it would have been easy to read. But also, after watching this for the first time, I found like the plot really hard to follow. So I thought it would just be helpful for everyone if we just read the short story so we could follow the plot a bit easier. Mm-hmm. But after you see it a few times, it becomes easy to grasp. Like, you don't even have to read the short story, I think, to really get what's going on.
Yeah, the plot isn't real complicated. It's more the storytelling kind of essentially misleads you and where you might think the plot is going.
Well, yeah, and it's so like it purposely does that, and as you watch it a few more times, you kind of like develop new expectations for it, I guess, and that's what maybe threw me off the most when I first watched it. Was I had certain expectations for a sci-fi crime thriller, and they're completely, going against all those expectations.
Yeah, it's not The Matrix.
No, but even if you compare it to something like Abel Ferrara's Body Snatchers, it does work with some of those. Like, it does play towards your expectations somewhat, whereas in this, it doesn't really at all. It's almost like watching a silent art film. Like, you could have it with the sound off, because the dialogue doesn't really matter too much, even though it is important for me to follow the plot with the dialogue, because it does deliver, like, important events that are all happening off screen, right? Like, you don't see what happens to Asia Argento's character. You hear one thing about her disappearing, or the fact that she must have been turned while in Vienna by the Moss Corporation, but that's it. And even Walken's death, I don't really know what happened. Like, he just decided to commit suicide, right?
Yeah.
And we don't see the actual defection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's kind of weird how Gretchen Mol is cast and, as advertised as being in the film, but you only see her, like, just brief shots of her walking with Hiroshi, and she's almost unrecognizable. She's wearing, like, a fur coat and like a fluffy blonde wig or something, and I think in the 90s she was, in speaking parts a lot. Like, she was in The 13th Floor, and I think she was in The Funeral by Ferrara as well too, also with Walken. Well, what I also like, comparing it to his other films, Ferrara's other films, is that if you watch A King in New York with Walken, which is kind of like a modern-day Robin Hood film tale done in the Bronx in New York, and Walken plays a gangster who's coming out of jail, and he's trying to use his funds to, like, rebuild his neighborhood, to make hospitals, stuff like that. He's stealing from the rich, so to speak, and giving to the poor or whatever. But that film is shot with tons of blue, so, like, the whole film just looks blue the whole time. And this film, there's tons of red, especially in the earlier scenes. It's just red images, red and black. That's it. And that's something that I also appreciate about the film. Yeah, I guess so. And blood, and yeah. So yeah, there are lots of other things I really like about it. Obviously, the sound design I like, or I like a lot.
Did it strike you or anyone that, like, Fox and X didn't seem to be that good at their jobs? I mean, that's kind of obvious where the story goes, but when
X especially, he just seemed to be along for the ride.
Yeah, but like when they're doing the test run for seduction with Sandy, and she's just kind of making up her lines as she goes along and how she's going to go about seducing him. It seems pretty awkward at first, and then she just moves in for a kiss and says something in a low voice, and immediately Christopher Walken's like, oh, that's going to work. We have him.
Yeah, no, that's one of the worst scenes in the film, but it's also a scene I like a lot too, and it's kind of...
Yeah.
Like, what I kind of understood later after watching a lot of Ferrara's films is that, and he doesn't admit to this, but his two biggest influences for me, or from what I can tell, are I think John Cassavetes in a weird way, and Fassbender, Rainer Werner Fassbender, and it's not apparent to me, like, it wasn't apparent to me right away, but I think that's kind of how I sort of have to watch his films now, or like that's kind of how I have to expect to watch his films, because every time especially when I was younger, just getting into him, like every time I watched one of his movies, I was just confused after, I just didn't know what I saw, or, why he would do this. Like, it has a really weird mixture of interesting visuals, but also amateur production style, amateur technique, amateur acting, stuff like that, which again works, for both describing Fassbender and for Cassavetes. Maybe more so for Cassavetes, but once I kind of understood that, I started to enjoy his films more. Like, I've sort of kind of adjusted my expectations and realized, okay, I'm not going to get this type of movie here. And there are still ones I don't really like that much. Like, I think The Blackout with Matthew Modine is a lot like this movie in terms of style, but I don't think it works as well. And I think he does overuse dissolves quite a bit. Like, I have never seen a film with this many dissolves in it. It's just bizarre. And this is at a time when it actually cost money to make dissolves, because you had to get an optical on your print, right? Like, now it doesn't cost anything to do a dissolve in digital software, but back then, and he always made films quite cheaply. So like, these were all decisions he had to labor over, because he never made films with a lot of money, and his films didn't make a lot of money either.
Yeah, I think the box office return of this one was like $21,000 or something like that.
which is not a lot of money at all for.
Well, did it get any distribution?
I don't know. I'm sure it got shown in New York and LA and in Europe, and that's about it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't seem like a very commercial film, which is not anything to say on its qualities or whether it's watchable, but it is basically a three-person play for much of it, with dissolves and other devices to kind of mislead you and create a mood piece instead of a sexy heist thriller, which it could have been, but it's not. And I mean, I don't think that's a mistake necessarily, but it is a film it probably was not even if it did get a wide release, I can't imagine it would have done very well.
No, I don't think so either.
And I think The Matrix, which was still in production at this time, was the cyberpunk thriller that everybody wanted, and this is not. I mean, there's nothing against that film. It's just a total different style of filmmaking and a total different purpose. But it's not a commercial film. But that's neither here nor there as far as quality goes.
No, yeah, and I think he's not interested in making commercial films. Like, I'm not sure what he's interested in doing, but because his interviews are almost as incoherent as his movies. They don't. His interviews, like he speaks like one of the most uneducated people I've ever read, and he swears constantly and is like just speaks in total slang. But then he's able to make these bizarre movies that I just really like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the dissolves and the kind of dreamlike state of the film is certainly in contrast with how he comes across. I agree.
Yeah, because he comes across very abrasive and not to mean anything against people who are blue collar, but he comes off as very blue collar, like as if he's been working at like a meat chopping factory or like a butcher shop or something all day. Like he's one of the ugliest people I've ever seen too. He's extremely unattractive. His teeth are basically falling out.
He was born in the Bronx.
Yeah. What I kind of forgot this time around, or when I was watching it, I forgot about all of the nude scenes. I knew there was a few with Argento, but
there's a lot.
There's actually quite a bit. Like there's a lot in this.
Yeah, I at Parsons, I thought, is this a softcore film?
Well, it almost could be if it cut off some of like the video surveillance scenes and just made it about like Dafoe, all the people Hiroshi's banging and all the people they're banging. Yeah. And I will say I understand people who don't like Argento's performance, but I'm a really big fan of her as a performer. And this is one of the first films I saw with her. I think I saw Boarding Gate before this. And Boarding Gate was a film I really liked for her performance, and I don't think it's a great film overall. But do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say Boarding Gate? That essayist film with Michael Madsen and Argento.
I haven't seen it.
It's like a corporate crime thriller, and basically Argento plays this woman on the run. She kind of plays like a femme fatale, but. In one review I read, the reviewer said Argento has this look that she on her face, and every scene where she looks like she's just going to rape everyone in in the room or something. So like she just has this ferocious look on herself all the time, which you don't really see in this one. She's very young in this film and pretty unseasoned as an actress.
And her character is playing things close to her chest.
Yeah.
So she is giving off a facade.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
true. Yeah, that's true. But that's not sold to you by her performance. That's sold to you through dialogue.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you don't really... And that's kind of one of the things I didn't like about the first few scenes where they're interacting with her, is that could have, I think, been changed a bit to make it a bit more believable that she was this cunning temptress who was kind of double-crossing these guys. Because you're basically just supposed to buy that she is like that because of the throwaway dialogue you get from Victor Argo's character in the last third. And then the repeated scenes that you now have to recontextualize with the new information while Dafoe is sitting in the New Rose Hotel, feeling sad and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Her performance, at least, like for the first part, did kind of work for me because I did find her to be like an innocent, and maybe that other dimension of her character isn't really there, but at least I did find her plausible in what she ostensibly was supposed to be. I don't know. I have like a weird emotional reaction to some of these things because I don't really sympathize with any of the characters, but I like how it's really focused on the emotions and like kind of that longing and that sense of betrayal, and they don't play on the jealousy, I don't think, too much, like Willem Dafoe's jealousy too much, but I don't know, at least enough that I can kind of see him, like, actually understand him getting hurt, even if I don't really care about the character. and kind of the same way, like, I feel, maybe it's not so much Abel Ferrera, but like William Gibson's writing and, like, the influence of Philip K. Dick on him, where... you question everything within that. But I feel like for Philip K. Dick, a lot of like those sorts of twists in his stories tend to be coming more from, I guess, the technological conceit that the novel has. And I think in this, I think in this one, it's more from like a character trait. Yeah, that she is set up to be the seductress and somebody who ultimately will make the target betray his company, but she ends up betraying them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they don't expect that she has her inner life and her own agenda. They just see the surface of her.
Well, yeah, like they just see her as a tool, basically.
Yeah, and that's a very old story, which just is kind of in the new 21st century mode, dropped into that kind of William Gibson cyberpunk storytelling.
Yeah, well, but I think it works really well though in a science fiction environment because I think maybe just because of Philip K. Dick, but because of or some other sci-fi writers that
just because of Blade Runner and the noir influence on Blade Runner.
Yeah, I think that I get a sense or I feel conditioned to assume that. Like it's going to be more of a technological mindfuck as opposed to a character one. So I think it works for me like in that context. I guess better than it otherwise would in something else.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess the part of it is that it does mislead you in several aspects. So I think that's good. I mean, it doesn't deliver. I mean, as we said before, it's not the Matrix, and I think that works for what it's trying to aim for. And they also lead you to believe it's going to be the Matrix, but it's not.
And they also, I mean, they focus so much on like kind of explaining the world that they're in and how corporations in this world work and how like corporate espionage in this world works. Mm-hmm. And again, that just makes you a little bit more conditioned to that. But in turn, I think emphasizes the more human element of it a lot better.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder if it's the failure on Walken's part just by being cheap. They're going to make $100 million, and she's a key part of the plan. They offer her $1 million.
Exactly, yeah. And she's basically the whole plan.
Yeah, exactly. And they put that right next to each other too, where they find out like how much they're going to make, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, you'll get $1 million." Actually, one more thing too is it was weird. Like early on in this film, I'm like, okay, so it's Christopher Walken before he became Christopher Walken in the sense that we now know him. Which I think kind of started with the Weapon of Choice music video in 2001. But then later on, like he becomes more like current Christopher Walken, and he even does the same dance moves from Weapon of Choice. Yeah. So it was weird just to see him transform from classic Walken to current or future Walken right before my eyes.
To caricature Walken.
Yeah, especially whenever he would play with the cane he had, which was in every scene.
Something I liked about the text messages that were being sent on phones or whatever computers was that whenever it was from Fox, Walken's character, it would have like a little cane that was twirling around.
Yes.
Yeah. And I had missed that the first few times I'd seen it, but that's such a great little touch, you know, it's just a really easy visual way to get across that this is Walken's character, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not like you really need that because, again, who else would be texting him? But
yeah, exactly. There's only 3 characters.
Yeah, but I like that, you know, not only predicting text messages, but also predicting avatars.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I should mention that this film has incredibly low reviews on the main things we use to review films on the internet. So on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got 19%. On IMDb, it's 4.8, and Metacritic, it's 31.
I don't understand that. Like, I didn't look up what the reviews were, but I feel like, you know, just going into it, people, even like fans of William Gibson, would at least defend this film or say that this is like one of the best adaptations of his work.
Funny
it's
enough,
certainly faithful.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough is that a lot of the people that I read a lot of comments on the internet about this film for like preparation stuff, and a lot of the people were saying either on Letterboxd or IMDb or whatever that this is a horrible adaptation of the short story, and that the short story barely survives. And I was just flabbergasted by that because it just seems to capture the mood of the short story so well, but also the plot is entirely intact.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's literally no changes in the plot.
No.
so some of the
the dialogue is pretty much intact. I mean, they kind of expand it. Well, they definitely expand it, but they kind of expand it within the parameters that are set out in the short story.
Well, yeah, like they add a few scenes that you would expect there to be in that scenario. Like it's not like totally, you know, out there, right? And that's why I think it's a great adaptation. And like, you know, I enjoy The Matrix as well too, but it's not a straight adaptation of Gibson's work. It just borrows some of the sort of window dressing of his ideas, like the telephones and the sort of visual nature of cyberspace and the SimStim and stuff like that. But it's just a totally different experience to watch this and watch The Matrix. You know, The Matrix is just a really clever action thriller. You know, action crime thriller.
The Matrix is the world. This movie is the people.
Yeah. You know, something that's a little similar to is Strange Days by Catherine Bigelow, especially some of the imagery. Although I think Strange Days has dated a bit worse than this film, mostly because of all like the mini discs and stuff.
I think Catherine Bigelow was at one point was supposed to direct this too. At least,
and that would have been good too. She's a really good director, I think. So
yeah, it would have definitely been different, though. I think she would have actually gone for the action.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah. I would be interested in watching this again, and yeah, just maybe trying to piece some more of the pieces together to, I guess, paraphrase a George Lucas line. Yeah, but I don't know. This is something I just responded to, I guess, better than I thought I would. So I appreciate the choice, Cody.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, I'm glad you liked it. It's one that I really turned around on for myself when I watched it a few more times, and you know, started to understand what Ferrara is trying to do in the movies, because I just didn't understand him when I first Like, I think the first film I saw of his was Bad Lieutenant, and I thought it was okay. And then, after that, I think the one that really got me into him was a film called A King in New York with Christopher Walken. And that's probably his most accessible movie, but yeah, like that one. And then I just find this one and King of New York and Miss 45 are the movies that I just enjoy rewatching by him quite a bit. But especially this one reveals a lot more on each rewatch. I start to notice a little bit more of what's going on with what he's doing with the images. And the sound as well, too.
I really like his Body Snatchers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's weird. That one's a weird adaptation.
Yeah, but it's a good adaptation, and I appreciate that he was doing for something different.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't think I have too much more to say on New Rose Hotel.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to add. I mean, I'm not crazy about it, but I think it's worth watching. It's certainly, there is certainly depth to be plumbed in it, so I think that's good. And like I said, I really appreciate how it foresaw technology evolving. So I think it has, if you pay attention to it, there is some things that reward you in it.
Yeah.
And Walken is pretty fun, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he's always good. Okay, so what's next on the deck here, on the docket? I mean,
well, this is the end of year 2. Although maybe we'll sneak some podcasts in August. I know we've talked about a couple of one, but year 2 of the podcast started with Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Did the original, the 70s version, and Abel Ferrera's version. So I guess Abel Ferrera kind of bookends the year.
Mm-hmm.
We did Time After Time. We did All Hallows Lee, trifecta of Christopher Lee, Altered States, Quatermass Experiment, and Quatermass 2. We had a Secret Santa bonus episode to silent film in Germany with Alrain. Then we dipped heavily into Criterion Collection with World on a Wire, Godzilla and the H-Man, and Repo Man and Walker, and Alphaville. Fit in a Valentine's Day special with Jack Benny in there, and a Cabin in the Woods episode of The Witch, and Nat and I went to the Patio Theater Sci-Fi Spectacular and did a short little podcast on that in the car. And finished up with Year of the Sex Olympics, Forbidden Planet, and now New Rose Hotel. I would say Criterion owes us some freebies, but any thoughts on the year?
So we're going to say our favorite and our least favorite?
Sure, just what you thought were the good ones, or what you thought was interesting, or
okay.
But I think I know what your least favorite was, Cody.
It's probably Nat's least favorite too.
Could be.
And Robert's favorite.
No.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna abstain from picking the ones I chose as my favorite. I did really like World on a Wire a lot, but son of a bitch, I was gonna say something now, but I just forgot the title. What is that one Nat
Walker.
picked? Walker, yeah, I really like that one. I really like Walker. I don't know why. I just like the soundtrack. I like the really crass political commentary and crude way that he does it. That was probably my favorite. Yeah, and my least favorite was obviously the Year of the Sexes Olympics, which I thought was horrible. But I also liked Forbidden Planet a lot too. That was cool. I liked that one a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Least favorite, I think, pretty much the same. You're at the Sex Olympics. I don't know. For me, I really enjoyed World on a Wire for as long as it is. I did enjoy watching it, and it is something I would like to rewatch. Probably won't in my lifetime, but but I would not be close to the opportunity. Godzilla, obviously, really enjoyed, and I liked Alphaville, or at least I like putting, having a little badge, allowing me to say that I've seen Alphaville. Trying to think, was Altered States your choice, Cody?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was fun to do. I think the most fun I did have was Secret Santa. I think it was fun having Jim Leskoski on here, and I was surprised that we actually didn't all guess our Secret Santa. And actually, I do have to say, maybe back up a little bit, that my favorite movie that I watched from this year was My Secret Santa Gift. Or wait, no, not mine, because I got New Life. But the one that Robert gave out, which was A Hard Day, I love that movie. That movie is so awesome. And I was pleasantly surprised by the box.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's a good point.
I was too. I think that's probably the biggest surprise of the year.
That was good.
Positive. I mean, it has problems, but it's the way it was trashed. You think it was like Plan 9 from outer space, and it is.
No, it's better than half the crap that comes out for sure.
Yeah, and I liked having Patrick on for the Quatermass. I liked having Jim back on for the Body Snatchers. I'm trying to think if we had any other guests besides the Directors Club.
Matt Gamble was on for Godzilla and the H-Man.
Who cares about him?
Yeah, he barely spoke.
Yeah. And usually you can't get the guy to shut up, so what's the deal? No, that was fun, and all of them I would like to have back on. And this wasn't directly related to Still Watching the Skies, but Kurt and I did our Prisoner Mini podcast, which was a lot of fun. And hopefully we can get something off the ground before the end of this year for another of those microcasts. Yeah, I think it's been a good year, strong year. And we played hard. We didn't make it to the finals. But we had a lot of support from the fans, and it's not how hard you play the game, but it's really how hard the game plays you. And so, looking forward to next year. I think we can win it, and we'll see you on the field.
Okay.
Oh, and I will say it was really, really fun meeting Robert in person too, and we had a great Italian lunch. And it was really fun seeing the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And sorry again that I pushed out. It was a really long week, but hopefully we can meet up again sometime. I still owe you a book.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll meet up, and maybe Patio Theater will do it again next year. I can make it down for that, and a great Looney Tunes short to open it up. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they repeat that. For me, I thought Invasion of the Body Snatchers was a lot of fun. It's their most downloaded episode, and I'm pretty okay with that being their most downloaded episode. I thought it was good from start to finish. I was really happy revisiting Time After Time. Thought Altered States was fun. Secret Santa might have been the most fun I had on an episode this year. World on the Wire, I agree. That was one of the highlights of the year. A very good surprise. Disappointments. Torture Chamber, Dr. Sadism, and Scream and Scream Again. I was hoping we would do a little better for All Hallows Lee for quality, but his filmography is his filmography.
Yeah, we failed.
I know Walker was an interesting movie. I don't know if I really loved it, but I'm certainly glad I saw it. And yeah, I'm glad to have Alphaville on the checkbox. And I splurged for the Blu-ray of Forbidden Planet, and I can see that one getting played again and again because that's a gorgeous movie on Blu-ray. So I'm really happy we did that one. We'll have to see what we come up with for the third year of our podcast. I know
I got some good ones.
I do too.
Oh, I mean ones that I think Nat will hate.
I like this one.
I know, I'm just kidding.
And I'm the one who suggested Walker, which is totally a Cody film. And I liked Alphaville.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And I liked World on a Wire.
No, I just like hearing you.
All 3.5 hours of it.
Yes, 3.5 goddamn hours.
Should we do like recent sci-fi things we watched outside of the podcast, or no?
Real quick, like, do we have any themes or anything that either of us wants to push for year 3?
Themes, eh?
Well, I think we're going to mark the 40th anniversary in Star Wars in some way, but it's not going to be by reviewing Star Wars. Put it that way.
Well, there's Rogue One.
Yeah, we could review that, or Hidden Fortress.
Ooh.
Plus Flash Gordon.
Ooh.
Or the Dam Busters.
Ooh. Try for the will.
So I think that might be on the agenda at some point. But there are some big names I want to get along for. I don't know if I want to give it away too early, but I do have plans for this year, and I think we will redo Secret Santa again.
Yes.
I think we will ask Jim back, see if he'll do it, but I think we'll find somebody to do it, and it's on my agenda to get Angela back on the podcast at some point.
Yeah. I think it would be fun to add a couple more people, or at least one more person for the Secret Santa too.
It might get to be a lot. It might be a lot to watch 5 movies just for that, though.
Well,
yeah, but then it's fun for guessing, though, too. It's more fun.
That's true.
People. Yeah,
but then you can also choose a movie.
Andrew James.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll pick something weird.
Well, what's his name? Alejandro.
Yeah.
Whatever. Not Inarritu, but
Jodorowsky?
No, not Jodorowsky. The Skin I Live In guy.
Oh, Almodovar.
Yeah, Pedro Almodovar.
Yeah.
No, that's some Spanish name.
Yeah. Some Mexican guy.
But I imagine it would still be 4 films, though, because I think pretty much all of us saw the films that we had chosen to give as Secret Santa, so we only had to watch like 3, unless we wanted to rewatch.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I actually did rewatch A New Life.
I'm sorry.
And I rewatched A Hard Day, and I'm not sorry.
No, that film's amazing. I would say I'd like to push for some more classic 1950s sci-fi movies.
See, I want to get away from that.
Well, Nat, you have your picks.
That's true. And then
I want to go for more 70s, because I just haven't seen them.
Maybe we should assign each other decades. So I'll do the 50s. Cody can do the 70s, and Robert, you can be our wild card.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have a couple from the 70s that are on my docket, so I'll just be the wild card. Yeah.
You can't choose any Terrence Fisher movies.
Ooh, you're going to make it difficult on me. No, I'm okay. It might pop up at Halloween, but otherwise than that, no Terrence Fisher movies. I do have like 3 of my movies picked out this year. I think they will be fun, and one of them might even be topical when it comes out. So,
ooh,
oh boy, okay,
good.
Which kind of brings us up to our next month's episode, and it's going to be a 3-4 to kick it off because I have a guest lined up. I'm calling the episode "Those Damned Kids." Which will include Village of the Damned, based on John Wyndham's The Midwich Cuckoos, Children of the Damned, and Joseph Losey's The Damned, or These Are the Damned. But basically, these are all science fiction films centering around children who have been affected by, in some way or another, and have strange powers, which might prove deadly to the rest of mankind. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Damn fun.
Damn fun. And I have lined up a guest. Right now I have the invite out to Patrick Paul of Tracks of the Damned. So
nice.
It seems appropriate to invite him, especially since he suggested that back in our Quatermass episode. So that'll be hitting in early September, and I hope you enjoy it. So if you have any feedback or comments or suggestions for movies to watch, you can send them to skies@wherelongtail ends, or leave a message on the comment section at the board, or even use Facebook. We'll find it somehow. And I think that's about it for this month. Any final thoughts, Cody or Nat?
I got a screaming baby, so I gotta go.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We'll see you next month.
Okay. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.